Hello there, parishioners of St. John Newman. I'm happy that you tuned in today to hear a little bit of a reflection of mine on the first Sunday of Advent. On the first Sunday of Advent, we hear from St. Paul's letter to the Romans, chapter 13. He describes about how we're called to be awake, right? He says, you know what hour it is, how it is full time now for you to wake from sleep. For salvation is nearer now for us than when we first believed. The night is far gone, and the day is at hand. Let us cast off the works of darkness and put on the armor of light. What St. Paul is describing, he's using kind of this analogy of being awake. And it's important for us to, I think, to look at our spiritual life in this way. One way that we could look at our spiritual life is doing the things as God's calling us to, right? So setting goals about prayer and doing those things. And sometimes we can put off prayer, and in this way, it's kind of not acting in the staying awake, but more of being lazy about our spiritual life. Yeah. And this can really play an impact on the rest of our spiritual life. When we're prompted to pray and we don't pray, that can have problems in the rest of our life. Right? So we're always called to stay awake and be prepared for what the Lord has in store for us, right? By not being drowsy, not loafing around, but by being awake, being prepared for the hour that the Lord is going to come is nearer now than when we first began, when we first believed. And that's true. Right? So for us, for many of us, we've been in the faith for a long time. It's a good reminder each year in Advent about okay, I'm called to stay awake. Lord, how are you calling me to stay awake this year? Right? St. Jose Maria Escrivá, he talks about the spiritual life, and an important part of the spiritual life is mortification. Right? Mortification could fall into kind of the big category of penance. Each year in Lent, we talk about penance. The three classical ones is prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. But St. Jose Maria Escrivá talks about just mortification, just giving up of small things. And I think this is a really important teaching of our life. He describes mortification and giving up small things. Not big and heavy things, but just small things can often bear fruit in our spiritual life. And when we look at our spiritual life as far as temptations go, the temptations oftentimes can kind of snowball, where they start off very small, but eventually it gets to a point where they're very big and they're hard to resist. Yeah, and that's a reality of our spiritual life. But mortification is a spiritual practice where we get prepared, where we stay awake, and we give up small things so that we can be more prepared for those temptations that are going to come. Right? And so a small mortification today, right, or a small mortification in the morning can lead to another good mortification later on in the day, and that can help our spiritual life insofar as we're not loafing around or being lazy or filled with just the natural goods of our life. And so, brothers and sisters, I encourage you to stay awake and encourage you to consider, how is God calling me to mortify myself, just in very small ways. Maybe that's giving up dark chocolate, yeah, or giving up dark chocolate for an hour. Right? I have a desire for it now, but okay, I'm going to just give it up for a little bit. Yeah? And this is a good small practice that can help bear fruit in the rest of our spiritual life. All right, well, God bless you. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe.